taking him and we're putting him in what I would consider protective custody.
Is there some reason for protective custody beyond his
We just don't want anyone bothering him. He doesn't know anything about the case. He is uninvolved, and we're going to be sure that he's not bothered and given a chance to recuperate after this nightmare that he's gone through.
We learned the other day that apparently he had given some names to police. Does that place him in danger?
As far as I know, he's in no danger whatsoever. He gave no names to police officers of people who he considered to be a suspect. The only names involved are the names of people or acquaintances of his, and the police are checking them out routinely as they're checking out all other acquaintances of the murdered people.
But has he been fully released, sir?
He is released. I'm confident that he will not be rebooked in any charge, and as far as criminal charges, the matter is at an end.
Then is there no reason why he just couldn't say briefly as to what happened that night, as far as he remembers?
Well, the reason is that because of this situation he's gone through, he's in terrible shape. That's why. If you can imagine being dragged out of your house and thrown into a nightmare like this when you're not even involved, and when you're not 19 years old, and when you're 19 years old, I think you can understand the situation that the boy is in, and I think he's entitled to a little rest, a little relaxation, and at the appropriate time, he will make a statement to you about everything connected with the case.
How about the polygraph test? Yesterday, Mr. Tarlow, it was indicated that certain physical evidence had to be checked. Can you tell us about that?
Well, I think that was just a device for delaying his release a little longer.
Up there, and I'll meet you over at the there's a gate, and so if you just like UCLA goes out of the huddle, you know what we're looking for, huh?
How did they connect her with the Tate case?
Apparently, the police have gathered information from a number of persons, and she was one of the suspects named.
Has she been placed in custody for that?
No, not yet.
Do you anticipate that she will?
I've been informed that she will be one of the persons whose names will be brought before the grand jury.
Is she a member of the commune that we've heard described by the chief of police of Los Angeles?
Yes, she is.
How long had she been with him?
For about 3 years.
What type of plea will you make?
Well, from what she tells me, and from the, assuming they have sufficient evidence to connect her to any of these crimes, it would seem to me that she was totally under the power of this one person who was in charge of the commune, who called himself a god and a devil, and that she would just do his bidding.
Did the others also operate that same way?
This is my understanding, although I can say that my client did not kill anyone. I've had complete conversations with her regarding all of these affairs and episodes, and at no time did she actually do any physical killing herself.
Was she at the scene of these 3 murders?
Well, the police say they have evidence that she was. Of course, that's a matter which I'll have to discuss further with her.
Watch out, get him. Clear out of the hall. Well, is that why she left the state? Was she afraid of him?
Oh, I can't answer that. She's very happy to be in custody.
You think
She feels she has protection now.
Well, she told you anything free to touch.
Al, Gary?
I don't want to answer that right now until we've talked to
All
her
I
at
can
length
say
this
is,
afternoon.
as her attorneys, we have no worries.
Well, has she indicated that anyone has made an attempt on her life or threatened her life since this happened?
No, she hasn't told me that, but she is frightened, and I don't want to say anything more about her attitude toward these people right now.
Has she said anything about the way she's been living at all?
Well, of course, I represented her back in September, and she has indicated that she has been living, taking care of her baby by herself. She is separated from her husband. That's all I can say about that.
What was she represented for in September, Gary?
This involved, I didn't represent her, this involved obtaining custody of her baby for her again.
Right, so where's the baby now?
I'd rather not say right now.
Well, Mr. Matthews, you said something about as her attorneys, you feel confident. Was that your
We
word?
have no worries.
No worries. No worries about what?
We're very happy to represent this particular young lady.
Al, could I ask you this? How did you come to represent her? Through Gary?
Yes.
Yes, I brought Al into the case with me. Al and I have been associated in, 20 or 30 cases over the last 8 or 9 years since I left the prosecutor's office.
What is she specifically charged with for this procession?
We're going to find out
We're
this
going to
morning.
find out right now. What, if anything, she's
don't
charged
know.
with? We don't know.
Well, do you feel confident that she may be exonerated by any
Absolutely.
charges against her in the state
Absolutely.
case?
No problem.
You don't
Absolutely.
feel she had any role in the murders?
The police have
No, sir.
identified her as one of the prime suspects.
She's a suspect. She's only accused right
The
now.
police weren't there.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right.
Thank you.
I'll hand this back to you, Sam, so be ready.
Get away from the elevator.
I'll be very happy. Very happy.
Have a favor of yours.
Could you tell us the contents of the indictment, Mr. Bishop?
All I can tell you is that we indicted 6 people on 8 counts.
Can you give us their names?
I can't give them to you offhand.
Mr. Bishop, the decision was made rather quickly when you consider all the people you had to listen to. Can you tell us something about that?
No, I have no comment on that.
Mr. Bishop, what is your reaction to the type of testimony that the grand jury has been listening to in this case?
Will you explain that a little bit further, what you mean by the question?
It shocked
It
you.
was very shocking, very shocking. It was a terrible group of murders. It was probably the worst in the history of California.
Pardon me. Was it the testimony of Susan Atkins that really cinched it?
Well, that certainly was a part of it.
Was there any discussion in there about granting immunity to anyone in this case?
No, no one was granted any immunity.
It is difficult to determine at this time whether the Office of the Public Defender will be Mr. Manson's trial counsel. Certainly, Mr. Manson may retain counsel, a private counsel of his own choosing before trial, and as was indicated in the colloquy between counsel and the bench, there may exist a conflict of interest.
Could you explain the conflict of interest, how it comes about?
Well, first of all, I want to point out that we don't know that there is a conflict of interest. There are several defendants in this case, however, and there are there are many defendants represented by the Office of the Public Defender. One of those other persons we represent may in some way be associated with this case. They may be associated in this case in some way that is adverse to Mr. Manson. So we might be in this situation of representing both an adverse witness and defendant Manson, in which case that would be an impossible burden for an attorney to represent people having very substantially conflicting interests.
John, could you stay in the background a little bit so they get the shot? Thank you.
Back up, man. In the parlance of the street, your client has sung like a canary in the Manson LaBianca killings. Why?
She has, as I indicated before, she has been cooperating on my advice based upon the evidence that was shown to me by the district attorney's office when I first entered this case. I felt it's to her advantage, and she has so done.
How about in the Hinman case? Has she made any statements in that admitting guilt?
Well, when I got into the Hinman case, she had already had a preliminary hearing, and at the preliminary hearing, officers testified regarding what she had told them, which implicated her in the Hinman matter insofar as those statements were concerned.
Are you going to permit her to talk to Manson in his case?
If she wants to, I will permit her.
Why?
Because he's a co-defendant in the case. She will be in the trial. She's charged with the same offenses. There may be a lot of things of common interest that he may want to know and that I may want to know.
Have you made any decision?
That question I can probably answer for you better after she meets him.
Have you made any decision yet on whether or not she will take the stand?
Well, I would imagine if we go to trial, she will take the stand.
One attorney to represent the entire Manson family?
I've heard a rumor to that effect. Other than that, I know nothing more about it.
You're her attorney actually from day to day, really?
Yes, I'm her private retained counsel, yes.
What are some of the other ground rules that you talked about today? Can you tell us anything about that?
Well, we spoke about the order of presenting the evidence. We also discussed the possible length of the trial. It appears now, from the estimate of all the attorneys involved, that the trial might take about a half a year.
Vince, in light of the fact that the Beausoleil conviction has been reaffirmed this morning, is there a possibility you may go with the Hinman trial first relative to Manson and Atkins and hold the Tate LaBianca matter?
No, there's no chance of that, no. The Hinman trial will be subsequent to the Tate LaBianca trial.
What gives you the estimate for a 6-month trial?
We have upwards of 100 witnesses. We anticipate that our case in chief will take approximately 3 months to put on. This is after we've selected the jury. Then the defense will take perhaps a month to put on their case. It'll take probably 2 weeks in rebuttal. The arguments and the jury deliberations will take another 2 weeks, and the penalty phase, assuming we secure convictions, will take another 2 or 3 weeks.
The judge, in denying the motion for a new trial and in denying the petition for a reduction of sentence in this case, called it one of the most hideous cases he's ever sat through. What is the next step legally now? Does this go before the appellate court for review?
Yes, under a sentence of death, this matter is appealed directly to the Supreme Court. That means it goes up on automatic appeal to the California Supreme Court.
What was behind Mary Bruner's outburst in court this morning?
I think, again, that she is feeling the strong loyalties towards the members of the Manson family and feels that she took a part or played a part by reason of her truthful testimony in court in securing a death sentence for Robert Kenneth Beausoleil, also a member of the Manson family.
Is your office going to take any action against her?
No, we contemplate no action against her at this time.
How long will it take the Supreme Court to review this case and hand down its decision?
I wouldn't suspect that this case will reach the Supreme Court before 1.5 years to 2 years.
Thank you, Bert. Could we ask you to read the letter which you say you have from?
That was not gone into. Of course, if the defendants continue to act disruptively in court, the judge is going to have to determine how to handle that matter at that. We've subpoenaed 80 thus far, but I anticipate that we'll call approximately 100 during our case in chief.
How many peremptory challenges does each defense attorney have?
All defendants can exercise 20 peremptory challenges jointly. In addition thereto,
Since the judge is going to sequester this jury throughout this trial, which may be the longest trial in California criminal trial history, it seems to me you're going to have to get persons who are retired, or persons who have no jobs, persons perhaps who have even no family. Do you think you're going to have these kind of problems?
We discussed that in chambers just recently, and of course we're going to have that problem, and that was what we addressed ourselves to. This would come under the nature of, I would imagine, some sort of hardship excusal from jury service. In other words, we're going to go into matters economic, family, health, and the like that would make it unlikely for jurors to be able to sit around for 6 months to a year during the time that we'll be trying the case.
Is anything going to take place in court today relative to the Rolling Stone interview that the prosecutor, Mr. Stovitz, granted?
Yes.
What do you see at this moment as the greatest problem in getting the trial underway?
Probably the voir dire of the jury, the questioning of prospective jurors.
Now, how many jurors do you think are going to have to be voir dired before you come up with a jury? Any idea at all?
That would be just a wild guess. I'd rather not guess.
But the first panel will consist of about 80 jurors.
Oh, I don't know what the court has ordered, how many people the court has ordered over.
Yeah. All right. Dave, you just came back from Tokyo. I understand you had illness in the family over there. You've been sort of out of it for the last few weeks.
If any of the defendants act up in a Rubenesque type fashion in court?
Well, I think the only action he can take is to either, stop the proceedings at that.
We got the box there.
Okay, this is a letter from Mary Bruner.
Friday morning, I testified as a witness for Bobby. What I said at that time was the truth. Bobby did not stab and kill Gary, and neither did Charlie, Bruce, Sadie, or me. I can't say who did it, but it wasn't done by a member of the family. I wouldn't say who did it before, and when the police last December said Bobby was blaming the murder on me and threatened me with probation violation, a murder charge, and the loss of the baby, I was frightened and I put it on Bobby. Then I testified to the same things that were in the original statement because I was told I would be prosecuted if I didn't. The affidavit I made in May is true, and I offered through Mr. Graves to take a lie detector test on this in court. However, the judge did not permit this and said either I cooperate with the prosecution or be arrested immediately for murder. Bobby saw how some fears were rekindled by the judge's threats especially, and also by what the lawyer told me about the charges of not going along with the court at this time. It is obvious that the DA and the Judge Keene are not interested in truth. They want their conviction of Bobby, and the only other person they would accept as the killer is Charlie. They are not guilty, and I am completely willing to take a lie detector test on this point at any time.
Mary,
Pardon me?
I say hello again.
Oh, hi.
What's your comment after being arraigned on a charge of murder?
Oh, I don't have one.
Really? Are you frightened at all?
No, I expected it.
Really? Does the possibility of a death penalty frighten you? Or does
You know, that's so far off. Like, there's next week this court coming up, and that's as far ahead as I'm going right now.
Well, Mary, can you tell us, you say that Bobby, nor you, nor Susan killed Gary Hinman. Who did?
Take Charlie out of there, too.
And Charlie.
Oh, take Bruce, too, by the way.
Okay.
I forgot he was in on it.
Who did do the killing?
I can't tell you who did that.
What do you know? I mean, can you tell us that?
You know.
I mean, without naming names, do you happen to know? This isn't putting anybody on the spot, if that's what you're afraid of. Do you really know who did it?
Might say that, yeah.
Uh-huh. Do you know the motive for it?
Wow, that's more than I want to get into.
Uh-huh. Okay. You know now that you may never see your baby again, or at least for a long, long time. Does this have any effect on you?
Of course it has an effect on me.
Did you think about this before you made your latest move?
Yes.
Uh-huh. But you decided it was better to do it this way?
That's right.
Uh-huh. You're 26 years old, I believe.
That's right.
Uh-huh. Do you feel that your life has been wasted at all?
You gotta be kidding.
Go ahead.
Well, Gary was a very sweet person. He tended to take care of people. He was very warm, very outgoing, very verbal. He was extremely bright. He was studying for his doctorate in political science.
He was an accomplished musician as well.
Yes, also.
How do you think he might have gotten involved with the people in the Manson tribe?
Well, Gary had a penchant for helping out people that were in trouble. He, fed them and gave them a place to stay, and it was, he did this with a lot of people, and I assume that this is probably how he, came in contact with a number of people in the family.
Did he ever talk to you about any of the members of the family?
No, he did not.
Never mentioned the family?
No.
What was your first reaction when you'd heard about his death?
Shock.
And surprise?
Yes, because I couldn't understand how anyone would kill Gary. He just wasn't the kind of person who would get physically aggressive or that you could get angry with. I couldn't understand what a motive would be. Gary Hinman was a person that would have been almost impossible to rob because he would have given you whatever he had or whatever you needed.
And you change. Okay, Bill.
When they select the jury, those seats are no longer there. They start selecting a jury.
Well, I talked to Miss Minus.
Is there any particular thing that is more difficult about picking this jury than anything else? I mean, is there an age factor? Is there a vacation factor? What's
The
hang-up?
difficult thing about this case is, number one, it's going to last 6 months at least. Number two, the jury is going to be sequestered. So what we're talking about then is taking jurors away from their livelihood and taking them away from their families. This is an enormous burden to place on a juror.
So you're likely to get either a very young jury or a very old jury.
I would say so, yes. Yes, the pickings are going to be kind of slim, really. There aren't that many people who can actually do that, Dick.
What did you want to say to her? And was it your idea or Charlie's idea? Huh?
My very own idea.
Yeah. And
Linda is a friend of mine.
I know that.
And she hasn't been able to see anybody for a long, long, long time. She's been programmed and programmed and programmed with negative programming to where she's frightened. She wants her children back. Whatever she has to do to get her children back, she's doing it, whether it's true or untrue. And I can see where she would do anything to get out of jail and to get her kids back. But she's taking a lot of she's putting a lot of people in jeopardy at the same time.
Yes. Robert, you're Linda's husband.
Yes.
Why are you here?
To give Linda comfort.
Did she ask you to come here?
Well, I'm here on my own.
I see. Now, you told me a while ago that you regard Charlie Manson as the Antichrist.
He's a false prophet and has come to deceive as many people as he can.
You also, I think, to quote you correctly, said that he trips differently than you other hippies.
Yeah, he's bloodthirsty. We're not. There's a lot of hippies that ain't on his trip. Well, there's a lot of us that are waiting for the real Christ.
Have any of the family members contacted you and through you tried to get Linda not to testify?
Sure.
When did that happen?
All along.
What did they ask you to tell Linda?
Just that we should bow down and worship Charlie like everybody.
The judge has signed an order under Section 1324 of our Penal Code wherein she cannot be prosecuted for any crimes that she talks about on the witness stand in these proceedings or in any other proceedings. Physically, the district attorney's office must move to dismiss the indictment, which they will do shortly, under yet another section of the Penal Code, Section 1099. Now, this is a technicality which we have not taken up with them too strongly right now, because at least for the time being, both Linda and my partner and I have no objection to her remaining in custody. Ron puts it this way: it's like a Monopoly game. We got a get-out-of-jail-free card in our pockets. Whether we want to use it right now or not, we haven't made up our minds, because our original agreement was that the immunity and the 1099 dismissal of the charges would only come at the end of her testimony.
In general, what security precautions have you taken?
Well, let me put it this way. She will be brought back and forth to the place where from the place where she's staying by officers of the Los Angeles Police Department. As you can understand, the Sheriff's Department, they're jailers. They no longer have any jurisdiction over Linda. She's a free person. The Police Department, upon our request, is going to provide transportation for her and security precautions, I think, during the rest of the cross and redirect examination here. Probably, if she's recalled by the defense or for rebuttal, and probably at the time she is called, if she's called as a witness in the Charles Watson case. In any event, they're going to be with her. We're not in a position to give her security. We're just her lawyers. We can give her our affection and our legal advice, but we really can't provide security.
My son has all the intelligence in the world of being his own attorney. He's very capable.
You're saying the jury was unfair in their decision?
The jury did not follow the court's instructions given by Judge Keene. If they had, my son would be acquitted today.
What instructions?
The instructions were very clear in the court. The judge said to handle with mistrust anyone that would get immunity in a case such as this. Not to completely outrule their testimony, but consider with distrust. Also, the fact that immunity was given to Mary Bruner. Deals were made with Danny DiCarlo in the first trial and possibly in this one. He's charged of all types of felonies. Our son has no other previous convictions, but this one, he spoke a sincere and honest testimony, and the jury refused to believe it. And I feel that those people are going to have to live with themselves, and I pray for them.
Are you in agreement with the verdict?
Yes, I'm in agreement with the verdict. I think it comports with justice. As I indicated before, I'm always sad to see a death penalty verdict returned, and my heart goes out to the parents, Mr. and Mrs. Beausoleil.
Are you surprised at the verdict?
Oh, I was shocked. I was completely surprised. I just can't see it.